Hey guys, Feuerrm here, and today I will not be testing the Aston Martin DBS Superleggera in multiplayer in Asphalt 9. Rather, TinyMcMicro has given me some races in his nearly maxed one, so it is 5-star. Previously, I did a video about this car, and I think it was at 4-star or so, but this guy got some really good races in the maxed one, and he's actually doing this in Legend League, so you can expect to see some races against S-Class cars, including things like the Fenner and the Sheeran, and even a Regera, and a bunch of like super powerful cars that you might not be able to think a B-class car such as this one would be able to go against. And we'll also see some races against some other B-class high-end cars, such as the Huracan, for example. There's a lot of good races in here, so be sure to stick around to the end. This first race here is against a Fenner, and you might be thinking, why is he not getting far ahead? Because that car is a lot faster than this one. Well, it's on Rome, and Rome has a lot of twisties and stuff, and so he doesn't really have many places that he can actually get up to a very high speed. And I don't think it's quite as agile as the DBS either, because as we saw in my previous video about this car, it can get around some turns pretty nicely. TinyMcMicro actually passes the Fenner there, and then while we were drifting to get up to some more nitro before the barrel roll, the Fenner hits him from behind, thankfully not knocking him down. Usually, in most cases, if a car hits you from behind, you won't get knocked down. More often than not, you will actually speed up, and the car behind you will get slowed down. That's what's happened to me. I've mostly been on the giving end of that, as in, I get slowed down, and the person ahead of me speeds up. Oh well. At least in this case, TinyMcMicro did beat this Fenner Super Sport. And now we're moving on to a race which is against one of its closest competitors, I would say, which is the Huracan. Now, I would say it's not as good as the Huracan. It's that black one over there. That's the good competition in this race. Funny, the Lycan, the S-Class car, the really fast one, isn't actually nearly as much competition in this race as the Huracan is. And I think that was an accidental 360. I get those all the time. But it really just goes to show there's a whole lot more to these races than just the cars themselves. It's the drivers as well. I know I say that a lot, but I think a lot of people might be confused in multiplayer when a car that's statistically not as good beats a bunch of other ones that are generally considered to be better. And they're statistically better, but this is usually due to a variety of different factors. One would definitely be the driver, but also it could be those better cars might just not be suited for the sort of track that we were on. For example, a car like this one can do really well on the twisty ones, and then a much faster car that's generally better on a lot of tracks might not do so well on them against it. So that's just kind of how this is. But since this car and the Huracan are fairly close, I mean, the Huracan's better, but this one's still pretty close to it, at least in terms of how it drives. That's why this race was so very close, and almost passing him there, not quite around the corner. That's one thing that I find that I've had a lot of problems with in Asphalt 9. It's passing people, because usually I just end up bumping them from behind, and then as I said earlier, they get sped up or speed up or whatever it is, and then I get slowed down. There, he almost wrecks. That reminds me, and the Huracan wrecked, okay. That reminds me of that time in that SCG race, the comeback one that I did a while back, where I wrecked at that exact point on the first lap, and then managed to come back and beat everybody on the second lap. That was one of the earliest races I did in Asphalt 9 that was like really, really good in my opinion, and I made an entire video about it. I've had plenty of good ones since then, but that one's still special to me. This race is against a bunch of fast cars like the Lycan and the Zenvo TS1, and also some slower but more agile ones like the Porsche 918 and the Corvette Grand Sport. I have found that generally in the rush seasons, the more agile cars do better, and then in the normal seasons where it takes a lot more skill to get to the higher ranks, the faster cars that might be harder to drive end up doing better. That's why you see Corvettes swarming all over the rush season. I assume most of you have figured that out at this point and probably gotten used to it. Might still be annoyed, like a lot of people on the Reddit seem to be. But anyway, that's what happens in the rush seasons, but those cars just generally don't do so great in the other ones. So that's kind of a way to let you know what sorts of cars you might want to take out in the different kinds of seasons, because it really does make more of a difference than you might initially think. So just coming into the second lap, TinyMcMicro passes the Zenvo, and finally, after a little bit of a back and forth battle, passes the 918, and then stays ahead for the rest of the lap. That's what happens a lot of the time in these Legends seasons. It seems like people kind of settle into their spots, and they just kind of stay there for the rest of the race. And that is what happened here, but you know what's funny? The Corvette Grand Sport actually beat the Zenvo TS1 and a Bugatti Chiron. I completely forgot that that car was in the race because it wasn't actually up near the front. It seems weird, but just remember what I told you earlier and maybe it will make a bit more sense. So this race here is against this FXXK mostly. It was a very skilled FXXK driver, and this is one of the closest races in the video. The last one might be even more close, but yeah, this one was pretty crazy. So since I made my last Asphalt 9 multiplayer video, not a whole lot has actually changed in the community in either Asphalt 8 or Asphalt 9. But big things are coming, I can tell you that. Can't tell you what or when or anything like that, but they're coming, so this is kind of a lull before big stuff, if that makes any sense. I've noticed a lot of people that have been asking, both recently and just over the past couple months, when I'm going to make another Asphalt 8 video. So, I've said this before, but I guess I haven't recently enough, so I will say it again. I don't really plan to continue playing that game. I quit it several months ago, several updates back. What I do plan to do is continue making videos about the updates, and if there is any really cool new feature, like say for example the Showdown mode, which was really cool, and I enjoyed it, so I played it, I made a video about it. But I don't plan to keep playing the game and making videos about it because it's just not fun to me anymore after everything they've done to it. I'm going to stop right there. I could go on about that, but I would rather not. So here, TinyMcMicro passes this FXXK, almost gets hit from, actually does get hit from behind, but then somehow doesn't knock him down. I would have probably gotten knocked down there if I were playing these races, or knocked down. We had a bit of a discussion about that in the RPM team chat recently. I don't know, because knocked down seems like it would be correct, but in the game, knocked down is a single word, so you'd think you just add ED to the end. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. It probably doesn't really matter. I'm making a big deal out of nothing, but I like being right, so there's that. Now for the final race in the video, in which our main competition is this Regera, the white one that we just saw, and I guess it's time for me to give my general review about the car. So it is a very good car, as you could see throughout the video. It is not the king of B-Class. I do not really believe it is a king of B-Class, however, it is still really close to the top, and as we can see here, it can do quite well in multiplayer, just like the Huracan and the Corvette and cars like that can, because it just looks really easy to drive. I mean, I have the car, but it's at 3 stars, and I haven't actually upgraded it much because I haven't had a real reason to. So yeah, it definitely drives well even at lower stars, so I can tell it definitely does drive even better at higher ones, and especially after seeing all of these races. So currently we have got 2 cars ahead of us, the Regera and a Lamborghini Egoista. There's also a Feuerrm BC in this race, along with several other cars, but they seem to be really duking it out up there. And if you guys haven't seen my video about the Max Egoista, I would definitely recommend checking that out because, while it is a lower end S-Class car, it still is very good, especially in the rush season. It can beat pretty much anything if driven well enough. And there, the Egoista Rex, I'm not sure if the Regera caused that or not, because they seem to be very close around that point. I've actually been using my 4-star Regera quite a lot in the Burst of Speed multiplayer season, and I've been surprised just how well it actually manages to do against these Chirons, because it really is not terribly difficult to drive. It's definitely harder than the Chiron, but it's not too bad. I mean, there's a lot of cars such as, say, a low-ranked TVR Griffith or something that are much harder to drive. In some other news, I have finished the lyrics for my next Asphalt 9 song, and I have recorded them as well, so now I pretty much just need to make the music video. I'm considering getting it ready and uploading it at 27,000 subscribers. Not entirely sure about that, but we have gotten a pretty big boost recently thanks to that video that Gameloft promoted, which was the first episode of the Best Run series. The next one will be uploaded to RPM Alex's channel because we're going to go back and forth, and I might put a post in my community tab about that. Here, TinyMcMicro almost catches up to Regera, not quite, but still, that is a very close end to a very good race. Thank you all for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt content, as well as some Minecraft, Forza, and Need for Speed Heat. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!